My name is Elena. I'm 23 years old. This happened about 6 months ago, but I still think about it sometimes. Not because I'm angry anymore, but because it taught me something I needed to learn. I was living in a small apartment in my hometown, working a job that paid okay, but didn't really go anywhere. Then I got an offer, a real opportunity in a city 2 hours away. Better pay, better position, actual room to grow. I was excited, but also terrified. Moving is expensive and exhausting, and I'd never done it alone before. That's when my mom and my older sister, Vanessa, told me they'd help. I remember sitting in my mom's kitchen when I told them about the job. Vanessa was there too, scrolling through her phone while eating leftover pasta. I mentioned I'd probably need to hire movers, maybe rent a truck. My mom looked up immediately and said no, absolutely not. She said family helps family. That's what we do. Vanessa nodded and said she'd take the day off work. She said it would be fun, like an adventure. I felt this wave of relief wash over me. Moving companies were expensive, and I was already stressed about the deposit and first month's rent. I thanked them both. I really meant it. For the next week, I felt lighter. I had a plan. I wasn't doing this alone. I made lists, started packing little things here and there, and kept my mom and Vanessa updated on the timeline. They both seemed excited. My mom kept saying how proud she was of me. Vanessa joked about helping me decorate the new place. I started imagining the three of us loading boxes together, maybe grabbing lunch afterward. It felt good. It felt like the kind of thing families do. I didn't realize yet that I was the only one actually imagining it. About a week before the move, I texted Vanessa to ask if we could sit down and go over the plan. I wanted to figure out timing, what furniture we'd move first, that kind of thing. She read the message right away. Then she didn't respond for hours. When she finally did, she said she was swamped with work stuff and couldn't meet up. She added, "But don't worry, I'll be there on moving day for sure." I stared at that message for a while. Something about it felt off. It was the way she said it, like she was already making excuses. But I told myself I was overthinking. She said she'd be there. That's what mattered. I called my mom that night. I didn't want to sound paranoid, but I mentioned that Vanessa seemed distracted. My mom sighed in that way she does when she's about to defend my sister. She said Vanessa was just going through a stressful time at work. She said I needed to be more understanding. Then she promised me, again, that they'd both be there. She said I was worrying too much, that everything would be fine. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. So I said okay. I pushed the doubt down and kept packing. The next few days, I packed everything by myself. I'd kind of assumed we'd do some of it together. That's what helping with a move means, right? But neither of them offered. I wrapped dishes in newspaper alone. I disassembled my bed frame alone. I carried boxes down to my car alone, trying to fit as much as I could so there'd be less to move on the actual day. My back ached. My hands were covered in tape residue and dust. I kept waiting for a text. "Hey, need help packing?" It never came. By the time moving day got close, my apartment was almost entirely in boxes, and I'd done all of it myself. The night before the move, I sent a group text. I said the truck was reserved for 9 a.m, and I'd really appreciate it if they could be at my place by 8:30 so we could get started. My mom replied with a thumbs up emoji. Vanessa sent back, "Okay." That was it. Just okay. No enthusiasm. No, "can't wait to help," or "see you tomorrow." I sat on my couch, surrounded by boxes, and felt something cold settle in my stomach. But I didn't let myself think about it too much. They'd be there. They promised. I woke up at 6:30. I couldn't sleep anyway. I made coffee, got dressed, and started loading small boxes into my car. The rental truck place opened at 8, and I wanted to pick it up early. By 8:15, I was back at my apartment, truck parked outside. I texted the group chat. "I'm ready whenever you guys are." I waited. 8:30 came and went. No one showed up. I stood by the window, watching the street. My phone stayed silent. At 9, I started carrying furniture toward the door by myself. A chair, a small table. I kept glancing at my phone. At 9:20, Vanessa finally texted. "Running a little late. Be there soon." I stared at that message. A little late. We were supposed to start almost an hour ago. I didn't respond. I just kept working. At 10, she sent another one. "Still getting ready. Sorry." Still getting ready. It had been over an hour. I called my mom. No answer. I felt my chest tighten. The truck was rented for the day, but I had a schedule. I had to be out of my old apartment and into the new one by evening. I couldn't do this alone. But it was starting to look like I didn't have a choice. By 10:30, I stopped waiting. I accepted what was happening. They weren't coming. Or if they were, it wouldn't be in time to actually help. I looked at my couch, my dresser, my bed frame leaning against the wall. All heavy, all impossible to move alone. But I started anyway. I dragged the couch inch by inch toward the door. My arms shook. I had to stop every few feet to catch my breath. Sweat dripped down my back. My phone sat on the kitchen counter, silent. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I realized this wasn't just about today. This was about every time I'd needed them and they hadn't shown up. I just hadn't wanted to see it before. At 11:15, I heard car doors slam outside. I looked through the window and saw them. My mom and Vanessa, walking up slowly, each holding a coffee cup from the expensive place downtown. They were talking and laughing about something, not rushing, not apologetic, just casual. I opened the door before they could knock. They walked in like nothing was wrong. Vanessa looked around at the half-empty apartment and said, "Oh, wow, you already started." My mom set her purse down and asked what I needed them to do. No sorry, no acknowledgement that they were 3 hours late. I stood there, sweating and exhausted, and just pointed toward the remaining furniture. My voice came out flat. Everything else. Vanessa took one look at the dresser and sighed. She said it was really hot in the apartment. She wasn't wrong. It was July, and I'd been hauling furniture for hours. But she said it like it was my fault. My mom touched her lower back and winced. She said she'd tweaked it yesterday doing yard work. She asked if we could take breaks. I wanted to scream. I'd been doing this alone all morning. But I swallowed it down. I told them we could start with lighter things. The lamps, the kitchen boxes. They could handle those. Vanessa picked up a box labeled books and immediately put it back down. She said it was too heavy. I didn't say anything. I just picked it up myself and carried it to the truck. For the next hour, I watched them move maybe 5 boxes total. Small ones. They'd carry something to the truck, then come back inside and sit on the couch. The couch I hadn't been able to move yet because I was waiting for help. Vanessa scrolled through her phone. My mom fanned herself with a piece of junk mail. I was carrying my bed frame, piece by piece, sweating through my shirt. At one point, I asked if one of them could grab the other end of my mattress. Vanessa looked up, annoyed, and said, "Can you give me like 5 minutes? I just need to respond to this text." I stood there, holding one end of a queen mattress. I didn't say anything. I just propped it against the wall and went back to work. As I struggled with the bookshelf, I heard Vanessa say something to my mom. Her voice was low, but not low enough. She said, "I didn't know there'd be this much stuff." Like I'd lied to her. Like I'd tricked her into coming. My mom responded, but I couldn't hear exactly what she said. Then, louder, she called out to me. She said, "Elena, honey, you really should have just hired movers for this." I stopped in the doorway, mattress half in, half out of the truck. I turned and looked at her. She said it so casually, like she hadn't promised to help, like she hadn't insisted I didn't need to hire anyone. I didn't respond. I couldn't trust what would come out of my mouth. By early afternoon, I was done. Not done with the move. Done with them. I'd carried almost everything myself. The couch, the dresser, the desk, all of it. They were sitting in my now empty living room, eating chips they'd brought from the gas station. I was drenched in sweat. My hands were blistered. My shoulders screamed. And they were laughing about something on Vanessa's phone. I stood in the doorway and watched them. Really looked at them. And something clicked. They never intended to help. They just wanted to feel like good people for offering. The actual work was never part of their plan. If these stories speak to you, you may want to stay for more. There was one piece left. The heavy oak dresser my grandmother had given me. I couldn't move it alone. I'd tried earlier and nearly threw out my back. I walked over to where they were sitting. I asked, very calmly, if they could please help me get it into the truck. Vanessa looked down at her outfit. White jeans and a silk tank top. She said, "Elena, I'm not really dressed for this kind of thing." I blinked. She'd known we were moving furniture. This wasn't a surprise. My mom stood up, but slowly. She said, "We've been here for hours already. Can't we just leave it?" I looked at the dresser, my grandmother's dresser, and I looked at them. I said, "No, I need it." We moved the dresser. Barely. They complained the entire time. It was too heavy. Why did I even need it? Couldn't I just donate it? I stopped listening. I stopped talking altogether. I moved through the rest of the day like a robot, checked the apartment one last time, locked the door, returned the keys to the landlord's Dropbox. They followed me, still chatting to each other, still acting like this was all normal. I didn't ask them for anything else. I didn't thank them. I didn't even look at them. Something inside me had shut off. Not anger exactly, just a kind of cold, clear emptiness. I got in the truck. My mom climbed into the passenger seat. Vanessa said she'd follow in her car. Vanessa never followed. I watched the rearview mirror for the first 20 minutes of the drive, expecting to see her car. Nothing. I texted her at a red light. "Are you coming?" She responded an hour later. "Something came up, sorry. You've got Mom, though." I gripped the steering wheel. My mom was asleep in the passenger seat. She'd fallen asleep 15 minutes into the drive. I drove in silence. 2 hours to my new place. 2 hours to think about what had just happened. 2 hours to realize I'd been doing everything alone for a long time. I just hadn't let myself see it. The city limits sign passed. My mom snored softly. I felt nothing. When we got to the new place, I had to wake my mom up. She blinked, confused, and asked if we were there already. I didn't answer. I just started unloading. She got out of the truck and stretched. Then she stood at the bottom of the stairs, watching me carry boxes up to the second floor. She called out helpful tips. "Be careful with that one. Don't drag it, you'll scuff the floor. Maybe take 2 trips instead of 1. I ignored her. I made trip after trip, box after box, furniture, piece by piece. She never touched a single thing. At one point, she sat on the stairs because her feet hurt. I stepped around her. She didn't move. When the truck was finally empty, I was shaking. From exhaustion, from hunger, from something I couldn't quite name. My mom looked around the apartment, boxes everywhere, and smiled. She said, "Well, we got you moved." We. I stared at her. She actually said we, like she'd done something, like they'd both done something. Then my phone buzzed. Vanessa. "Where are we going for dinner? You're buying, right? Since we helped." I read that message 3 times. My vision blurred at the edges. Not from tears, from something colder. I looked at my mom. She was waiting for my answer, and I felt something inside me turn to ice. I said, "Sure, let's go to dinner." We met Vanessa at a restaurant she'd picked. It was one of those trendy places with small portions and high prices, the kind of place you go to celebrate something. I wasn't celebrating. I was exhausted. My entire body hurt. I had maybe $40 in my checking account until next payday, and most of that needed to go to groceries. But I didn't say any of that. I just followed them inside. They were already laughing about something when I caught up to them at the hostess stand. Vanessa hugged me like we hadn't just spent the worst day together. My mom kissed my cheek and said I looked tired. I said I was. She didn't seem to hear me. We sat down. They ordered drinks immediately. Vanessa ordered an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert she wanted to take home. My mom got the salmon, the expensive one. I ordered the cheapest pasta on the menu and water. They didn't notice. They talked the entire time. About Vanessa's job drama. About my mom's book club. About the neighbor who never mowed his lawn. I sat there, fork in hand, barely eating. At one point, my mom needed the salt. She didn't reach for it. She looked at me and gestured. I passed it to her. She didn't say thank you. Vanessa asked me to flag down the waiter for more bread. I did. They kept talking. I might as well have been invisible. Or worse, just there to serve them. When the check came, the waiter set it in the middle of the table. My mom and Vanessa kept talking. They didn't even glance at it. I stared at the little black folder. I knew what was inside. I'd seen the prices on the menu. I pulled it toward me and opened it. $83. My stomach dropped. I didn't have $83 to spare. I needed that money. But they were both looking at me now, expectant, like this was obvious, like this was the deal. I pulled out my card, the one that was almost maxed out. I paid. The waiter took it away. My mom smiled and said, "Thanks, sweetie." Vanessa was already standing up, ready to leave. Neither of them said thank you. I drove them back to my mom's house. It was another 40 minutes. I'd been awake for 14 hours. I'd moved an entire apartment, basically alone. I'd just spent money I didn't have. And they were in my car, complaining about how tired they were. Vanessa said her arms were sore from all that lifting. My mom agreed. She said she'd probably need to ice her back when she got home. I didn't respond. I kept my eyes on the road, my hands on the wheel. I felt like I was watching myself from somewhere else, like I wasn't even in my body anymore. When I pulled into my mom's driveway, they both got out. Vanessa said, "Text us when you're settled." My mom said, "Drive safe." Then they went inside. I sat in the driveway for 5 minutes before I could make myself drive away. The next week, I unpacked alone. Every box, every piece of furniture. I set up my bed, arranged my kitchen, hung pictures on the walls. My body ached constantly. I found bruises I didn't remember getting. My phone stayed quiet. No texts asking how I was doing. No calls to see if I needed anything else. Nothing. I thought about texting them first, but something stopped me. I wanted to see how long it would take. How long before they checked in? Days passed, then a week, then 2. Silence. And in that silence, I started to see things clearly. This wasn't new. This was how it had always been. I just hadn't let myself notice before. I was unpacking a box of books when it happened. The decision. I didn't plan it. It just settled over me, calm and final. I was done. Done extending myself for people who wouldn't do the same for me. Done being the one who always showed up. Done feeling guilty for having needs. I wasn't going to make a big announcement. I wasn't going to have some confrontation where I listed everything they'd done wrong. That wasn't my style, and honestly, I didn't think it would change anything. So I just decided, quietly, in my new apartment surrounded by boxes. The next time they asked me for something, I'd say no, and I wouldn't feel bad about it. It happened faster than I expected. 3 weeks after my move, Vanessa called. Not texted, actually called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. She sounded cheerful. She asked how the new place was. I said it was fine. Then she got to the point. She'd bought a new couch and needed help moving her old one to the basement. Could I come over this weekend? It would only take an hour. I felt my heart speed up. This was it. The first test. I took a breath. I said, I can't. I have plans. The line went quiet. Then she laughed, like I was joking. She said, come on, it'll be quick. I said, I'm sorry, I can't. Her voice changed. She said, seriously? I said yes, seriously. She hung up without saying goodbye. 2 days later, my mom called. She needed me to drive out to her place. 3 hours round trip. She wanted help cleaning out the garage. It was a whole day project. She said it would be nice to spend time together. I felt the guilt start to creep in. That old, familiar feeling. The one that said I was being selfish. That family helps family. But I pushed through it. I told her I couldn't. I had things I needed to do at my apartment. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, what things? Like I needed to justify it. Like my time wasn't my own. I said, just things, Mom. She sighed. She said, you know, Elena, you've really changed since you moved. You don't seem to care about family anymore. That stung, but I didn't take it back. I just said I had to go. That night, my phone buzzed constantly. The family group chat. I opened it and saw a wall of messages. My mom had posted that she'd asked me to help with the garage, and I'd said no. Vanessa added that I'd refused to help her, too. They were talking about me like I wasn't there, saying I'd become distant, cold, that I'd moved away and forgotten where I came from. My aunt chimed in, then my cousin. Everyone had an opinion about how I'd changed, how I used to be so helpful. I read every message. I felt my face get hot. But underneath the embarrassment was something else. Clarity. They were mad because I'd stopped being convenient. I scrolled to the bottom of the chat. I clicked the leave button. I didn't explain. I just left. A month later, I heard from my aunt. She called to tell me what had happened, almost laughing about it. My mom had needed help with something. I don't even remember what. Something around the house. But instead of calling me like she usually would, she'd ask other family members first. My uncle said he was busy. My cousin didn't respond. My aunt said she had plans. One by one, everyone was suddenly unavailable. My mom had ended up hiring someone. My aunt said, I guess she realized you were always the one who actually showed up. She didn't mean it as a compliment to me. But that's how I took it. They'd taken me for granted, and now they were learning what it felt like when I wasn't there to fill the gaps. 2 months after my move, Vanessa texted me out of nowhere. It was late at night. She said she'd just paid movers $400 to move her furniture to her new apartment. She said she couldn't believe how expensive it was. She said it was such a waste of money for something that took them only 3 hours. I read the message twice. I thought about responding with something sharp, something about how that's what I'd wanted to avoid, how that's why I'd ask for help. But I didn't. I just typed back, "Yeah, moving is expensive." She sent back a thinking emoji, then nothing else. I don't think she made the connection, or maybe she did and just didn't want to admit it. Either way, I didn't push it. It wasn't my job to teach her anymore. A week later, my mom sent a text. It said, "I'm sorry if you felt hurt about the moving day. That wasn't our intention." I stared at that message for a long time. Sorry if I felt hurt. Not sorry for being 3 hours late. Not sorry for barely helping. Sorry if I felt a certain way about it. Like my feelings were the problem, not their actions. I didn't respond right away. I let it sit. The next day, Vanessa sent me a meme. Something random and funny, like nothing had happened. Like we were just back to normal. I sent back a polite haha and left it at that. I wasn't mean. I wasn't cold. I just wasn't available the way I used to be. And I could tell they noticed, even if they didn't say it. Over the next few months, I built a life in my new city. I made friends at work. Real friends. The kind who texted to check in, who invited me to things and actually showed up when they said they would. I helped one of them move, and the difference was staggering. She had snacks ready. She thanked me constantly. Afterward, she took me to dinner and wouldn't let me pay. She said, "You gave up your whole Saturday for me." It almost made me cry, because that's what it was supposed to feel like. I started to realize how light I felt without the constant weight of obligation, without always being the one who gave and got nothing back. My apartment became a place I loved. My life became mine. Sometimes I think about that moving day. Not with anger anymore, more like curiosity. I wonder when it started. When I became the person everyone expected to drop everything. When my needs became less important than theirs. Maybe it was always that way. Maybe I just accepted it because I thought that's what love looked like. But I know better now. I know that love isn't one-sided. It isn't convenience disguised as family. My mom and Vanessa probably think I overreacted, that I'm holding a grudge over one bad day. But it wasn't one day. It was a pattern. And that day just made it impossible to ignore anymore. I'm not bitter about it. I'm just done pretending it didn't happen. I'm sitting in my apartment now. It's quiet, peaceful. There's a photo on my bookshelf from that first week. Me, exhausted, surrounded by boxes. I look tired in it, but I also look free. I don't talk to my mom and Vanessa as much anymore. We're polite when we do, surface level. And that's okay. I used to think I needed their approval, their validation, but I don't. I have my own life now, my own people. People who see me as more than just someone who helps. I'm not waiting for an apology anymore. I don't need one. What I needed was to learn that I was never actually a burden. They just treated me like one. And the best thing I ever did was stop carrying weight that was never mine to carry.